This is the I Read Comic Books podcast. I'm Tia, your host for this very special edition Minisode. We asked our amazing listeners to make donations in support of the protests calling for racial justice, and a huge thanks to Luis Palermo, who unlocked this episode with Kwanza Osajyefo, who is the creator of the comic book series Black and a very good friend of mine. Hi, Kwanza.
Hey, Tia, how's it going?
It's going all right. How are you?
I'm quarantined at home. What about you?
Yeah, same. I was just thinking, like, I have not had human contact since April 19th.
Oh, wow. You're doing a little better than me. I've been locked down since February because I had taken time off to go to Emerald City Comic Con. So I've been at home since Emerald City.
Well, I started quarantine March 7th, but I was with family, and then April 19th I came back to my apartment in New York, so I'm in my little tiny studio apartment all by my lonesome. Well, I have my plants. My plant children are thriving.
Well, that all counts. It's consecutive. Just different locales,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But, a lot going on in the world.
Too much, in fact. I mean, it's sort of a space where you're like, can we just have something not happen for like a month? You know, like let's be bored again. Like,
yeah. I was thinking that we're almost at our 2-year friendiversary.
Oh yeah. I think this San Diego would have been 2 years. No, last San Diego was 2 years. No, last San Diego was 1 year. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's time now anyway?
No, I know exactly. We met at a party on a rooftop, and I feel like that the party was winding down, and we were both standing there separately, alone, judging everybody's outfits. And then we looked at each other, and we realized that we could make no critique. We had finally found a friend who was just on our level, and
it was very instantaneous.
Yes, and we have been snarky fashion critics of the comic book industry ever since.
Well, they make it fun for us.
I know. I do better, you guys. Well, there are some really notable exceptions who like step it up, and I'm proud of them. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like we really need to lead by example, and we do.
Absolutely. I actually think that the shifting demographics at conventions has helped that drastically because ladies come prepared. Like I've seen much better outfits this year, and I think it's had a little bit of impact on men and stuff like that. And then of course, like we are having like huge growth in the LGBTQIA attendance, so it's like outfits are coming, whether it's cosplay or how you dress every day. I'm very much looking forward to the next 10 years of con attendance whenever we can go back to conventions.
I know, especially because we're all like quarantined, like doing our skin is going to be so nice because we're not like out in the sun getting sun damage, and we could do our little like quarantine body weight workouts at home and like order a bunch of shit online, and then we're just going to all emerge like so desperate to have outfits, besides pajamas.
Yeah, I'm trying. I really want to have a debut. Like, I want everybody to like have an Adele moment when I come back.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what were you doing during quarantine? It's like push-ups.
It's like, but you know what? It's okay. Like, I think that the quarantine glow up is going to happen whether or not people are like actively trying to do it, just because we're all going to be so happy to see each other.
Oh my God. And that's the weird thing coming back too. It's like everything really is going to be changed fundamentally. I mean, of course, like this is a comics chat, so we could talk about that. But I mean, in terms of like how people interact with each other, like I'm a hermit, but I am kind of desperate for some human contact right now. And it's just sort of like,
too.
What? I can't have any, or like, how do we do that? And I'm like, New York, like LA is probably going to do great because it's like great weather all the time. So like everything's going to just become outdoor eating where you can distance people and like socialize. But any place that has like a lot of indoor stuff, like Minnesota is screwed.
I know.
Any place where you're locked in with people's breath and like germs. Like,
God.
uh-uh.
So you're gonna come visit me when I move to LA this fall, is what you're saying?
Absolutely, and like it's like even me just making that statement has made me reconsider my position on like LA. I'm like, oh, I don't have to like live there, but I should like figure something out.
Yeah, just well, you're welcome anytime to come visit.
Well, awesome. I will very likely take you up on that, depending on where you live.
By the beach.
So Santa Monica.
No, probably South Bay, where I grew up. It's quieter there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Down there.
You know what? We're going for quiet. Like I live on Broadway in Manhattan, and
Yeah.
like I just want quiet.
You don't have to tell me. Like I live up in the Bronx, like not too far from Broadway, but it doesn't really matter. And I know everybody's been experiencing the fireworks, but it's been like
Oh my
truly
God.
extra here. And just like, did you buy them before the quarantine? And you just been waiting?
I know. And then Macy's is like, we're just going to have, what did they call it? Surprise delight. Instead of giving people like an advance notice for when they're doing fireworks, they're going to do it like around the city by surprise, because that's what everybody wants right now.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's already happening. So you're just trying to like, are you trying to cash in on something we don't want?
I just want peace and quiet so I can sit down and read my comic books.
Yes. I mean, honestly, that's something I've been thinking about so much now. It's like, where can I go in the city where there's just peace and quiet? Like, I'm looking at like those new build high rises now, going like, how high up can I afford?
Yeah.
Get me off the street.
It's true. So, okay, let's talk about comic books on that note.
Sure.
You make comic books. You are a writer. And can you just give our listeners, in case they live under a rock and have not heard about Black, like, can you give us the sort of overview?
I can. So Black is probably what I'm most known for. And the premise of the story is, what if only Black people had superpowers? The story is about this young man, Kareem Jenkins, who unfortunately has a run-in with the police and gets shot and killed. But it's a superhero story, so in our fictional universe, he comes back to life, finds out he has superpowers, and he's part of a small percentage of Black people that have had superpowers for like centuries. But of course, it's been kept a secret because that would be disruptive to society. But that's sort of his challenge throughout the entire story, is struggling with, whether or not to keep this a secret, knowing that, the world is still going to continue on as we know it, like right now, or if he should expose the fact that, Black people have superpowers, knowing that, like, in all honesty, that could make things worse. So it's a double-edged sword for him to like try and figure that out at the wise old age of 15 years old.
Right. And so there's the Black series, and then there's actually like kind of I don't want to say expanded universe, maybe that's not the right way to put it, but kind of maybe, yeah, right, because you have other books within the Black universe that explore different superheroes or villains, as the case may be.
Yes. So, I mean, after I had always hoped or thought of Black as a trilogy, so kind of like Star Wars. So Black would be like New Hope, and then the sequel, White, is sort of like Empire Strikes Back, and then we'll have the conclusion, as Return of the Jedi sort of lineup. So if that gives you any indication of where the story is going to go, yeah, you're probably spot on. But the Black AFs are basically interstitials between those stories. So there's time jumps. White takes place 3 years after Black. And so the first one that we did was America's Sweetheart. And that was just something I really wanted to do in the universe, just because it's a story that I just had in my head, but also because I wanted to like flex a little bit and show people that the world of Black wasn't simply this, story about, Black trauma in the way that, a lot of us know it, which is our interactions with the police, which is oppression, which is discrimination, in that more violent and like, aggressive sort of way. So America's Sweetheart was me, showing that we could tell a YA story, something for like a general audience. And it's about this young woman, Ellie Franklin, who is the most powerful person on the planet. But she doesn't know that anyone else has superpowers because she's being raised by her rural, religious white family in Helena, Montana, which has has like the lowest population of black people out of the United States. So she's growing up on a farm with like all of her siblings and stuff, and she basically has like enormous powers. So spoiler alert, people do find out black people have superpowers at the end of Black, but I think you kind of could see that coming.
Right.
And that's where the story kind of jumps off. So she sees people's reactions to this and feels that she doesn't want people to fear black people or herself just because they have powers. And with her upbringing, she decides that, okay, I'll become a superhero and show them that there's nothing to fear, and I can actually help. So she dons like a flag motif like outfit and stuff like that I designed, because who doesn't want to design a Captain America homage?
Yeah.
And she goes about doing the traditional superhero stuff, saving cats from trees, stopping runaway trains, and what her conflict in the story is that, like, even though she's doing all these good things because of the world that we live in and this story is based on, people kind of question her motives. Why did she save people in that particular neighborhood? Why did she stop that particular crime? And being a young woman who's very like altruistic, this is a conflict for her because she's doing all the right things. And then she meets a character who has similar abilities and looks at her and says like, yeah, you're a fool. They don't love you. She's like, here's what's gonna happen. And they have conflicting views that in traditional comic style comes to blows. And it's really a story about being a good person in a world that maybe doesn't necessarily deserve you.
So I think that it's really interesting that both of the main characters in these two books are teenagers, but you describe America's Sweetheart as explicitly a YA story. And so is that something that, like, I don't know, I guess I would love to dig into that a little bit more, and like what makes you feel like, so what makes something a YA story to you other than the main character's age?
Well, I think in this particular case, I wanted to deal with a different conflict again that didn't like have its like core catalyst be around violence against black people, but still covered those themes of discrimination, those themes of like prejudice, those themes of trying to fit in a country that systemically has a lot of like prejudice against you just based on who you are, and kind of not fitting that mold of the stereotype they have for you. And I felt like that really spoke a lot more to like a YA genre than like Black, which really lends itself a lot more towards like a more traditional mainstream like aggressive conflict, and in some respects you can even look at them in terms of like traditional male female like ways of like dealing with situations. It's like
yeah,
it's like the traditional male is like kill it, eat it, punch it. and she, like, even though it's an action comic in America's Sweetheart, a lot more of the conflicts are those of the heart, the soul, like and even though there's stuff that's dealt with physically, it's not the first response to what's going on in the book. The first response or the repeated responses for her to try and like settle things in a way that doesn't require everybody being like harmed,
Yeah.
And so I think that has a little bit more of the YA bent to it, because those books tend to like require the characters to think a little bit more.
I think even the covers of, like the costume that you design here, like it's super cute, right? Like it's a really great outfit. It has like, the design on the cover of the graphic novel for America's Sweetheart is like, it's really colorful, and I love the covers for Black, but they are very, very powerful in a way that is certainly more mature, more heavy, I think a little bit. And the cover artist is Kari Randolph for Black.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, did you just sort of hand it over to him and say, do your magic, or did you have input with him with the covers for Black?
So it was funny because I'm a big fan of Kari's. I always have been, and we had already had a rapport before we even worked together because everybody always thought we were each other in the comics industry. And it's like,
I guess there's worse people to be confused with.
True, but it's just like, for us, like, we literally don't look alike.
No, you don't.
We still dress alike. Well, we did dress alike a little bit for a while, but yeah.
You both wear hats.
This is true.
You both have faces.
Yes, that's what it was. It was the faces. They were brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of his work, and I wanted to bring that to the covers for Black because I felt like it, his style spoke to the culture and like reflected, what I thought people would respond to. And after reading the story, Kari, he wanted to take a slightly different approach than what he's known for on this because he felt strongly about the work as well. And we were talking about stuff, and he kind of just said like, all right, here's the deal, like just let me come up. I have an idea, and the only thing I can tell you about it is Banksy. And the minute he said that, I was like, cool, go. I love Banksy. like whatever that is, I want to see it. And he delivered what has become like essentially the iconic representation of Black. And that cover set the tone for the rest of the covers because originally it was just going to be a graphic novel when we did the Kickstarter, but people, really wanted to see it a lot sooner and stuff. And it was my first time, even making a comic book. So I was like, okay, periodicals, let's do that. And once that was sort of the setup, we decided, okay, we're going to do 6 covers. What can we do to follow up that first cover? And I think we managed pretty well. Like, there was a lot of back and forth between me and Kari and stuff like that. But, it was a great collaboration. And I think we delivered covers that will be known in the industry for quite some time. It's in comparison to a lot of covers. I think covers come and go, but I think we established 6 pieces of art, honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, and you recently did some of them as T-shirts.
Yeah, so we had experimented with T-shirts and that sort of stuff before, just like playing around. But I mean, like that's a whole nother, like doing retail and merchandising is a whole nother headache. But it was after the protests that started, following George Floyd's murder that, I think a lot of people, but particularly myself, was just feeling like, what can I do to help support, these people aside from actually being out there with them? And one of the things that had come up was like, protesters being arrested and held on bail. And, being a Black person in America, like the bail system is just another system for, really kind of oppressing us in a sense that like, bails are set at amounts that on average, no person can pay, but on the average income of a Black person, especially the ones that police target, it's not money that they have on hand, so it's very predatory. And so we wanted to, take that art and put it on these T-shirts again so that we could raise money for these bail funds. So we set each one of the covers on a T-shirt, and each one of those T-shirts goes towards a specific organization that funds bail for people who are not wrongly, but protesters who are being like held in holding. And it just felt like something that I could do to help people, and I ran it by the team and everybody was cool with it. So I kind of scrambled. I didn't know what I was doing at first because I was just like, how do you even give away money that you earn? Like, how does that work? And like, when you set up a store, like, everybody's taking their cut. Like, how do we do that? So it was a learning process, like everything that seems to be doing. But, at the end of the day, it kind of worked out. And, even when we had some hiccups with the vendor because of COVID, like I had to put it on pause for a bit, but now everybody's shirts have been going out so I can restart it up again. and it feels good. It feels good to just use your art for something that's not like, going into your pockets and stuff like that. So I kind of feel, like it's something I'd like to continue doing in some fashion,
Yeah.
because this is going to be ongoing. So I'm really thinking about that, and doing t-shirts and like hats and stuff like that has always been something I've been really into. So I even launched my own personal store recently. I debuted it on like Very Very Spaceship last week. Just me kind of taking like my love of pop art and like artists who I love like Andy Warhol and Takashi Murakami, and trying to create art that is also merchandise. Things you can buy, things you can wear.
We'll definitely have to put a link to that in the show notes. But don't let anything sell out before I get to look at it first.
Uh, that won't be a problem because right now I've just kind of left it open. I'm being like very. I'm not being a perfectionist for once.
Yeah.
That tends to hang me up a lot, and I'm just like trying to take this my personal shop as an opportunity to say like, all right, I have an idea, I want to make a piece, I'm just going to put it online, and if you like it, great, I sold a shirt or I sold a hat or what have you, but really kind of give myself some freedom to not be perfect. So I launched 4 different like thematic lines with the shop. One is called We Is Me, which is basically me sort of breaking down the words we and me and the American flag in the form of like these parallel bars and stuff, so that it looks like a deconstructed American flag, but it also can look like the word we and me. And really, it was just like a response to like the idea of like things like the American flag and other symbols being used to make a statement about America that I don't think matches our ideals. I think now, because of like current politics, a lot of people have very visceral reactions to the American flag. It's
Right.
either you support it in a way that can be problematic, or you don't feel like you can support it in a way because it's problematic. It's like it's this very co-opted thing. And I wanted to create some articles that people could wear that really spoke to the idea that America, American idealistically are supposed to stand together and build together, and that it is not a country where it's just red or white or blue. It's red, white, and blue. So I created hats that like are all 3 of those colors and different combinations and stuff like that. And I would love to see people wearing them instead of like MAGA hats, or people who feel like they can't wear an American flag hat, or feel a certain level of patriotism, like be able to wear it. Because also you're not supposed to wear the flag.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not, it's against the flag codes.
That's
There are
true.
there are ways for all of us to actually like, say like we're all Americans. We're in this together. We're working together in a way that I think can be meaningful, and that's just one aspect of what I'm trying to do with the store, and like how I'm trying to express in an artistic way.
I have read and heard from you about your background in comics and kind of just getting into the creation of comics because you didn't see yourself represented and you had these stories in your head and you started getting involved in the industry. What got you into fashion? And obviously we both see a connection because that's how we met.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever, can you untangle those threads a little bit?
Well, yes, because I mean, my love of comics is fundamentally my love of pop art. Like, I love like pop art. I like stuff that's kinetic. I like bold colors and shapes, and I like the combinations of them. I like, a smart silhouette and like a complementary palette. Like all of these things have always, been something that that spoke to me. When I was a kid, one of the things I used to spend a lot of time on when I used to draw was redesigning characters. Like I hated all of their costumes.
They're awful. Yeah.
They're trash.
Yeah.
I have had knockdown fights about how awful Superman's costume is.
Oh, it's hideous.
It's hideous. And it's like, I can get with you with the color combos and stuff like that, but there's so many things that are like off. Like when they got rid of the red trunks, I was like, okay, we're going somewhere.
You know?
Like
Like,
let's
and I
keep
get the
this up.
history. I understand the history and like where it comes from, but like we're not old-timey strongmen anymore. And you can't expect these characters to be relevant wearing their underwear on the outside.
Right, and it's not even a complimentary like blue and red.
No.
It, and it changes like depending on who the colorist is. It's like this is mess. Like what is
Yes.
this?
Yes.
You know, it's like, and if you're gonna wear a cape, man, come on. Like, and
You
there's things about
know?
costume that I think are like classic. Like I'm very much about like the open collar. Like I think I'm very much about like his sleeve coming up above his wrist because it insinuates like a working class kind of character. There's elements to it that are like very like powerful and important, but there's also just a lot of stuff where it's just like, oh my God, who dresses you in the morning?
I mean, if we had $1 for every time we thought that in comics environments.
Oh my God. Like, that's why, like, anytime that it comes up, just like in like meaningless like chatter online, if anybody's like, oh, you should have Kwanzaa over at like DC or Marvel, it's like, you don't even, the crossover event wouldn't even be like some big thing. It would be me just fixing their costumes. Like,
Yes.
that would be the number one priority. It's like, all right, guys, we just can't have you going out into the public with this look. This is not how we serve justice or how we serve.
Oh my
So,
God. I just thought of an idea. We're going to make this comic. No one steal our idea. A person who the superheroes go to for styling, the stylist to the superheroes.
oh my God, that person would be so upset. That's actually my favorite part of The Incredibles.
Yes.
Is that they have a stylist, and I'm just like, yes, this is everything that happened in those moments was so important. Because even when you look at their costumes, like yes, they do the underwear on the outside, but they're complementary, so they don't look bad. Like the black on red underwear, I'm like, I can stand that. I can
Sure.
get behind
Yeah.
that because the color combo is right. It's like you don't put red on blue like that on a blue field. It's like, what? Why? What is wrong with you? Like, break this
Yeah.
up. It's funny because when I was working on the Smallville comic at DC, we had an opportunity to finally put Clark in his costume, and I worked very hard. Like we actually were the first ones to get rid of those red trunks, to get rid of those, to break up the blue field so it didn't just look like long johns, and we did different kind of blues and stuff like that, and like worked in the yellow in a way that was like really tasteful and complimentary. But like it's still just a mess. It's funny because that just made me think. I just ordered the entire omnibus of Wonder Woman from the '52 era that like Cliff Chang and Brian Azzarello worked on, because as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, that is the only Wonder Woman now. And like I will fight anybody because that was Cliff brought it. Like he fixed that character visually, and like everybody has just gone back to like mess with her costume and stuff like that. But that was like that was amazing. That was amazing Wonder Woman right there. She had the hot pants. She had the new like dark blue boots. It was like navy and red and then white. They got rid of the like khaki yellow. Like that felt right. And like the fact that nobody gets that bothers me. It just bothers me.
I know. We need more like costumers in comics.
Yeah, like really. Actually, like Cully Hamner is like a really great designer, and I think he was. I think he might have come in and helped with a lot of like that new 52 mess, in terms of like fixing a lot of stuff that was going on with like rolled up jackets from like the 90s, maybe like early like late 80s stuff that was going on at first. I'm just like, who rolls up their sleeves on a leather jacket? We need to really just put a moratorium on that. Like nobody, that's it's not even possible.
Bringing it around to the beginning of our discussion, maybe as more fashionable people start attending conventions and interacting with comic book artists, maybe it'll sink in.
Maybe. I would like to hope that it does, because like that would honestly be my dream, to like sit down like me and like Chris Anka or something like that and just
Oh
redesign
yeah.
like, entire universes for like Marvel or DC or any publisher that wants it. It's like we're gonna fix this. We're gonna like Jubilee cannot wear that tired yellow trench coat anymore. This must stop.
Yes.
This must stop.
Yes. Speaking of amazing pieces of clothing, how's my beaded cape that you stole from me?
It's doing well. I put it in a secure location in my office. And post quarantine, it will be returned to you. I may be wearing it when it comes back to you, but
that's
it will be
fair.
returned.
Honestly, it looked better on you, I think, so that's allowed.
I think it did something for me, at least that night. I think everybody was, and what I really loved about it was that everybody, either because they were like liquored up or not, like was really accepting of the cape with my outfit. Because you wouldn't have thought it would have worked, but once I had it on, people were like, yep, that's what that needed.
And you know what's the worst is that my outfit really needed it too. And as I was leaving that night, but this happened at San Diego Comic-Con last year, and I was leaving the bar after Kwanzaa had taken my cape, or I think I gave it to you. I don't know. I was going home early. Someone needed to wear it, and I walked. And as I was leaving, I saw someone on my nemesis list and I had to talk to them, and I was like, God. I almost wanted to be like, wait here, I'll be right back, and I had to go get my cape again, because fashion really does it gives you power somehow.
Absolutely, and I think it's just something like, considering like the field that we work in, you would think it'd be more top of mind. Like I love all of my peers and stuff like that, but there are just like so many where I'm like, okay, so here's what you could have done. It's not wear your like weird hiking sandals.
I legitimately have joked on Twitter, but I mean it. Like, I should start a business where like a con wardrobe consulting business. Like, you don't have to dress like this all the time, but when you're like, in these environments where we're all hanging out and we're like networking and being inspired by each other, just like a little, elevated a little.
Right. And to be honest, it's not like men especially have a lot of choices. Like, our stuff's limited. And I've actually gone into like a pod wardrobe recently where it's just like, I've just been like wearing the same stuff, same colors, but, complementary, like, fits and cuts and stuff like that, of course. But it's only because it's like I want to save all of my brain for the con. Like, that's where I want to be like, a bit more flashy and like put it on and stuff like that. Like, I love that Wicked party. Everybody brought it. Everybody.
Oh yeah.
Everybody.
That's what it's all about. Look, you can't go to a wake for a book drawn by Jamie McKelvey and not like have your best, costume of yourself on. Exactly.
And glitter.
Yes, of course, glitter. What's the glitter situation going to be in a post-COVID world, though? I can't go around touching 100 people's faces anymore.
I think maybe you'll just have to get glitter-covered face masks.
Yeah, maybe.
Like custom ones and stuff like that. That'll be like the new party hat. The new party hat is face masks. And I'm kind of cool with it.
Yeah.
You get different patterns, or maybe you can do like paste and glitter right there on the spot. Where it's like, oh, put your own design on there.
I'll have to get some kind of like projectile glitter. Fireworks people, call me. We could rebrand.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where can our listeners find you about the internet?
You can find me on my brand spanking new, but actually just not really announced website, KwanzaOsajyefo.com. If you're interested in black, you can find that at blackthecomic.com. And if you're interested in my humanoids work, you can find that over at h1comics.com.
Awesome. And just again, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've been extremely busy with all of your taking over comics and fashion and your day job and being a human. So thank you so much for coming to chat with us. And thank you again to Lou Palermo, who, full disclosure, is my mom and loved your books. And thank you to her for her donation to unlock the interview. And yeah, comics are good, or at least we're making comics good. And take care, everyone.